What is man? One dictionary defines man as an adult male human being. Another says a man is a simple creature who is basically interested in three things: relaxation, sex, and achievement. What do you think? Do you think that's it to a man? I think our men are made of much more. But I want to share Psalm 37 verse 23 and ask, what is a good man? The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. We have a lot of good men around us. To all our men, those in ASI Tobago Chapter, those who belong to this team here, ASI Media, our viewers, happy International Men's Day, which was celebrated yesterday, but I get to greet you all today. For our program this afternoon, we will revisit one which was streamed previously, The Mind of the Man, hosted by Sister Roneska Benjamin. Remember, this is not actually live. This is a rebroadcast of a live program held on September 25th of this year. Therefore, you will not be able to send in any questions today, although you may hear our host ask for it. So, still, many of you may have seen this, but look at it with different eyes. Let's hear what's on the mind of our men. And of course, share the link. You have friends and family who didn't have the opportunity back in September on the 25th. So share it right now. Share it. And still, the good news can reach in all the world. And as we think about our men who the world celebrated yesterday, we are going to hear a little or get a little sneak peek on what's on the mind of our men. So stay tuned, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Good evening to everyone, and welcome back to our evening segment, The Mind of a Man. We are going to begin our song service at this time, but before we do so, let us all bow our heads as we have prayer. Eternal God and loving Father, we are indeed privileged to be back here this evening where we can learn more of you, where we can give you praise and worship you in song. Tune our lips even at this time and give those listening an understanding heart to give you praise, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So our first chorus will be, what a mighty God we serve. So feel free to get up off your seats, clap your hands, dance. Join us as we sing a few choruses at this time. Let's go. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow before him, heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God. What a mighty God we serve. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow before him, heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve. I see the lighthouse. Amen. I see the lighthouse. Amen. I see the lighthouse shining in glory. I see the lighthouse. Amen. Jesus is the lighthouse. Amen. Jesus is the lighthouse. weary praising the Lord. I never get weary. I never get weary. Oh yes, I never get weary. Oh yes, I never get weary praising the Lord. I never get weary. Jesus is my deliverer. Jesus is my deliverer. Oh yes, Jesus is my deliverer. Jesus is my deliverer. I know He delivers me. How do you know He delivers? How do you know He delivers? Oh yes, how do you know He delivers? I know He delivers me. We got the victory. Oh yes, we got the victory. Hallelujah. We got the victory. Hallelujah. We got the victory. We got the victory. Oh yes. Hallelujah. We got the victory. Hallelujah. Every knee shall bow, every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. That Jesus is Lord. Every knee shall bow, every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. That Jesus is Lord. Satan defeated. Satan defeated. Satan defeated. Hallelujah. Oh, yes. Satan defeated. Satan defeated. Hallelujah. Satan defeated. Satan defeated. Oh yes. Hallelujah. Satan defeated. Hallelujah. Every knee shall bow, every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. That Jesus is Lord. Every knee shall bow, every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. That Jesus is Lord. Which side are you leaning on? I'm leaning on the Lord's side. Which side are you leaning on? I'm leaning on the Lord's side. I lean, I lean, I lean, I lean, leaning on the Lord's side. I lean, I lean, I lean, I lean, leaning on the Lord's side. Love is a far flown high from the castle of my heart. From the castle of my heart. From the castle of my heart. Love is a far flown high from the castle of my heart. When the King is in residence here, so let it fly in the sky. Let the whole world know. Let the whole world know. Let the whole world know. Let it fly in the sky. Let the whole world know that the King is a residence here. Hear my cry, oh Lord, attend unto my prayer. From the ends of the earth, will I cry unto thee. When my heart, oh, when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. The rock that is higher than I. For thou hast been a shelter
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for choosing to be a part of our worship session this evening. If you saw the link while scrolling through Facebook, if you saw it while going through YouTube, then this is the place you want to be. Do you want to know why I want you to stay with us this evening? It is because we have a very interesting topic for you today. It is captioned, "The Mind of a Man." The mind of a man, she said. That's exactly what I said. The mind of a man. In the world that we live in today, there are so many different challenges. Breakdown in homes, political challenges, crime is on the rise. A lot of times, who do we blame? Could it be the man? Could it be absent fathers? It's always the man's problem. That is what is going on in our world today. So we're going to take a break and look at something differently. Sometimes we, the women, we give all the responsibilities to the men. But do we even know what is going on inside those minds? Well, we have that option today. We're going to look, or rather, we're going to listen and hear what are some of the thoughts certain men have on their mind. So this evening, we will be having a discussion with 3 gentlemen who you will meet shortly. And apart from them, we will be having items of special music and also some video presentations from some females on different questions that men have concerns with, or even we women as well. So we want to start off with our first video presentation from Miss Cherise Ramdale Braffett.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cherise Ramdale Brathwaite. I am married to the wonderful man, Devon Brathwaite. We have been married for 7 years. And I'm no expert on talking about these things. It's not generalized, but it's just my point of view. So welcome to ASI, those who are locked on locally and those who are international. We welcome you. I think it will be a very interesting topic, and I hope you enjoy it and you stay tuned in, and welcome again. So one of the questions that I was asked is, what is confusing to me about men? It's not generalized, but if I really sit back and think about it, what is confusing to me personally about a man is just the way they solve problems. You know, how they come up with certain methods of solving a problem. I, as a woman, I might go from A to B to C, but sometimes they just come straight at it, and like 1 and 1 is really 2. So that's it. So it's sometimes confusing, and at the same time, it can be interesting. So that was one aspect of it for me. Another thing for me was, I don't understand for the life of me how a man might just now have his keys or something in his hand, and before you realize that he misplaced it. It's something that bothers me all the time. And another thing, personally, again, this is all personal, I will ask my loving husband, you know, could you go and get that for me? It's right on the top shelf on your right. He will go, he will look the exact place I sent him, but for some weird reason, he might just, him not seeing it was at all. So I just don't understand how some men think. I don't understand how they solve problems. It just sometimes amazes me. Sometimes I will just sit in awe and just watch and just look on and observe and have nothing else to do but smile, because it's just like mind-blowing. So that to me could be, they are confusing. I know some men might say that women are more confusing than men. I am not going to debate that, because sometimes it could be true. So I'm not going to debate it. But let's be real. Some of you men, you all are really confusing to us women. So I think it might not be 50-50, but you all up there. You all could really be confusing. So that was just my little snippet on men and how they could be confusing. Another thing is, what is interesting about men? Again, it's personal. I love to see how my husband, somehow he's more forgiving than me. We might be in the same situation, and he will be the one that will be he will be the fastest one to say, you know what, it's not really a big deal, you know, let me just let go, let it slide. I don't understand. It's interesting how he's easier to forgive, you know, and me now, I might sit a while with it, I might try to understand, I might go through all the emotions, sadness, anger, grief, everything. But I'm not saying he doesn't go through those things, but he's the one that's quicker on his toes, you know, when it comes to forgiving. So I find that interesting, and it's also a very good trait. And interesting too is I don't know, I don't understand how some men come up with the names for their friends, you know, their guy friends. I will sit down and listen to some stories about how you all come up with the names for one of your guy friends. You know, my girlfriend, she might just be, like Terry. But you will call one of your guy friend whose name might be Josh, might call him Snow Snail. How do you all come up with the names for your friends? You know, it's really interesting. And what is interesting too is the conversations that I hear men have. You know, the terms that they use, the things that they talk about. For me, it's an eye-opener. It really is when I think about men and how they operate, how they solve problems. It's really an eye-opener. And as I said before, how they solve problems could be confusing to me, but it's also quite interesting. Because I think sometimes men can be more practical than women in some sense. I think for me personally, I am an emotional person, so I am an emotional thinker. I will analyze things differently. I will say how I feel about things differently or more vocal. But sometimes a man, it's interesting to see how they sit with things and they analyze things. Not all men, some men, a little bit more in depth, you know. I might be a little more surface with certain things, and my husband might be a little more in depth, like a little voice of knowledge. Oh my gosh, I know he's going to smile when I say he's like, you know, the voice of knowledge. But it's really interesting to me how men do those things. And yeah, it's something that I sit and I'm amazed by, and I find it's really a good trait also. Another thing is, do I think men are mysterious? It's a broad question, but if I have to compare men to women, I'm not going to say you all are all this big mystery. You know, you all are mysterious, but not to the level that women are. And I know a lot of men might agree, because women, as you might say, is more confusing. You don't understand what she's thinking, what she needs, what she wants. So men are mysterious, but not to that great extent. Some of the men that I have spoken to or interact with, they are pretty straightforward. You know, it's kind of like, the sky is blue, it is blue. You know, we just have to be able to sit and listen and maybe sometimes understand where they're coming from. But there isn't much maths to it. You know, there isn't much go around the corner, come round back again. No, there's kind of not all aspects, but it's kind of what you see is what you get kind of thing. So mysterious to some extent, but not that big of a mystery if you have to compare them to women. So that's how I sit with it, you know, that's how I think about it. Women and men, we are way different. We are two different sexes, clearly. We analyze things differently. We think about things differently. We face situations differently. And I think even if we have those differences, that is what makes us unique. That is what makes us a good pair. You know, I think if a man was supposed to be as emotional as a woman, I don't think the world will really be the same way. I don't think it will be much fun. Let's think about it. A man behaving as emotional as we might behave sometimes might not be sexy, and it also might not be much fun. So I think a little, you know, a little spice is needed, and it's necessary. So that is just my personal take on men, about them being confusing, interesting, and also a mystery. So I hope you enjoy the rest of ASI, and we are really glad to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brathwaite, for that presentation, for that discussion, for the views that you gave, your personal views, might I add, on the relationship that you experienced with your husband. So we are going to begin our panel discussion this evening, and I will allow the guests that I have in studio with me to introduce themselves, for fear of leaving out issues about them or attributes that I don't know as yet. I am Renesca Joy Benjamin, and I will be your host this evening. So let me go to my panel and let them introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, my name is Davlon Braffett, and I attend the Mary Celestia Church, and this evening we'll have fun talking about what is the mind of a man.
Good afternoon, I am Wilfred Devines. I am the Men's Ministries Director of the Tobago Mission of Seventh-day Adventists. I have other portfolios, but for all practical purposes this afternoon, I will stay with Men's Ministries.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Also, that person that should be joining us should be Mr. Delison Charles, but he is not here as yet, but as soon as he joins us, we will let you know. So we will begin our questions with the persons who are on, and Mr. Deli is here with us. Hi, Mr. Delison.
Oh, well.
Good.
You? Good afternoon, guys. Okay.
I'll start with Davlon. What do you describe a man to be? Now, we know what a man looks like by physical attributes, but what would you say defines who a man exactly is, Davlon?
A man to me is a man who, first of all, is a leader, you know, in his own rights. He may not be a boisterous person or a man who is loud and get everybody attention, but in his own rights, a leader. A man who seeks after God, because without being a man and not knowing God, then it's impossible, in my book, to be a man. And the list could go on about it.
Sir Devines, what about you?
Well, as you said, apart from the physical attributes, society tends to define man, but I think each individual person must know who he is, how he feels about himself, how he thinks about himself, and of course he should be respectful. He should be cooperative. He should be tolerant, and the list goes on. But the reality is that we have to know who we are, and we should live up to the expectation, as Davlon said, that God expects of us. We get our definition from God, because God created us in His image and His likeness, and it is His purpose that we should serve Him and rightly represent Him.
Thank you. My next question is, in a world where a lot of thoughts and opinions are subjective, who then determines the function and purpose or role that a man plays in society? Is it society does that? Is it the women? I'll ask this question to Mr. Delson Charles. Who determines that?
That's a good question. I think theology determines, or theology says that God assigns the role to the man, especially as God would have given certain assignments or tasks through His servants to the husband. And then when we look at the roles, given to the deacons and roles given to the elders, we could glean some things there as to what a man is supposed to do. But sociology is a whole other ball game, because society now tells us that, culture and preferences, these are the things which influence how a man has to show up in the world. And so it really depends on who you're talking to, because if you're talking to somebody whose mind is stayed on God, or whose living from a Christocentric perspective, they will tell you, well, all right, cool. The Bible says this is what a man is supposed to be. This is what a man is supposed to do. But if you're talking to somebody who is not of that conviction, they will easily tell you, well, I determine what I want to do, or this is what my family says I should do, or this is what school says I should do. And so we'll have different definitions. But simplified theology tells us the Bible and God defines what a man should be. Society tells us whatever the culture says and whatever you prefer for a man to be.
So keeping that in mind, back to you, Mr. Dalton, do you think that society is fair or unfair to men? Do you think we are fair as a people to the male species?
Yeah, that's a nice question again. Typically, I would say that this is a man's world. I mean, there are some people who are against theology just because we say that God is male, you know, and we say and we refer to God as the Father and He. So a lot of people, you know, are against theology, but typically it's a man's world, right? If we talk about it, it's a man's world. Men, we are in charge of many things. We hold a lot of leadership positions, typically. So I would say that men, for many years, many centuries, we have gotten away with a lot of things, and we've had a lot of allowances. We were allowed to do things and show up however we wanted. But in that same breath, I would say that society has done men a disservice, because while men have been, you know, conditioned and pushed in the direction of achieving and accomplishing and leading and being on top and having a big status, men have really never been motivated to develop themselves emotionally. And so plenty of these skills that contribute to building a healthy relationship, a lot of men just have never had that. They may have trophies, medals, accomplishments, but they just don't have the basic emotional skill set. And so while, yeah, men have been favored and privileged in different ways, we have also been given a disservice, and that's something that we need to address.
It's how we start off with, this is a man's world. But the thing is, I'm only the host this evening. I cannot give any opinions. So, Brother Devines, I'm asking you the same question. Yes. Do you think society is fair or unfair to men? And then I'll take Davlon's opinion right after.
Well, I think that society's expectations of men have been changing. And from time to time, men have been asked to go beyond their potential. But the reality is, as was mentioned by Mr. Charles, is that, okay, sometimes the environment is not provided for the men to do what they are expected to do, yet they are called upon to perform those roles and function. But what I observe within recent times, things are changing, and even among men's group, you find men are trying to empower themselves. They are creating the environment so that they can help themselves. They have recognized, well, okay, there have been shortcomings, and we need to do something about it. But the expectation, you know, sometimes you hear, a big man like you, you're a man, you're not supposed to do that, and things like that. Anybody else can get away with it easily. But because you are a man, you understand me? Sometimes it might be justified to have those expectations. But on other occasions, you're a human being, and you will make mistakes. You have shortcomings, all right? But as I said, the roles are changing, the expectations are changing, and we just have to adapt, you know, because as was mentioned, God expects us to be role models. God expects us to be exemplars, all right?
Even to start off, it is a privilege to be a man. You know, I must start in that way. And we do have a lot of expectations as we are ordained as men to be a man of God, and different responsibilities. But I want to take it from a different turn, where sometimes we as men fail ourselves, where we take responsibilities and we don't take them seriously, or we fail at what we do. And because of that, we tend to look shaky, we may not be trusted, and although we have the support and we have other men to rally with us, with the expectations that we have from society, sometimes I find sometimes we men could do better as we used to keep the standards that we have and to improve on ourselves as men internally and in singleness and in different spheres of life, so that our standards can be held to that standard that it's supposed to have, and to to be that the man that we're supposed to be.
Well, it seems like everyone on my panel agrees that society is fair to them. I think society is not always fair to men, but I'm just saying I am just the host. Now, we looked at a video when we started this evening with Miss Cherise sharing her experience with her husband, and part of her presentation alluded to the fact that men can be a bit confused. And I want to ask Davlon, starting back with you again, do you share the same sentiments that men are a bit confusing or are confused at times, or you think that's just another statement we women tend to throw around the place?
It's definitely a statement that women tend to just throw around the place for the lack of a statement, because I think that we men are very simple to understand. I don't think it takes much to please men. What I think is that we use in society, but as a man we say that women don't really take the time to understand the simple things that may please a man. And because of that, you know, it makes the whole thing confusing. So, I don't think that is the case.
Okay, okay, Davlon, I will let you go with that. Mr. Dellison, let me hear your opinion on the same question. Well, I feel we'll go the same direction, but we'll take your opinion now.
You feel we'll go the same direction. I want to be honest with you. The men, I agree with Davlon that men are simple, but the complication with men is the fact that we don't have the vocabulary to discuss things emotionally in most cases. So very often what women call a complicated man is a man from whom they have been trying to get some articulation of how you feel, what you want, what you desire, how can I make you happy, and what will make you happy, and so on. And because not all of us men have the emotional vocabulary, we don't have the words to really talk about it, because we've been avoiding emotions for so long that very often we feel something, but we can't articulate it. And so when a woman now tries to do the guesswork and tries to say, well, okay, this is what you want, or that's what you want, very often we just kind of go with the flow. But then when they get into the experience with us, they recognize, well, that's not what we really wanted, because we just were not able to articulate it. So I agree with Davlon in the fact that we are simple to please, very low, I would say low maintenance, but emotionally we don't do the best at communicating how we feel or what we want, and I think that's where the complication comes in.
I agree with Davlon. However, the reality is that sometimes, and I want to be careful what I say, because I know there are lots of women listening. Some women expect men to talk as much as they do. And so if you do not talk as much, or if you do not express yourself as much, then you appear to be confusing or complex, or you're uncooperative. But sometimes what is needed is a little patience. Sometimes you approach a man to discuss an issue, and the timing may not be the best timing, and you want him to talk, you know, but he wants his space, you know. Maybe at some later time he might be willing to open up, and then some men are not trusting, and therefore they are more reserved in expressing their feelings, you know. As was said, that some folks have not been taught to be very expressive or vocal, so short answers will be given. You know, we will get to the point easily, whereas a woman will give you a whole dissertation to bring over a point. A man will give you a few words and that's it. Yeah?
It is so challenging to just be the host today. So the takeaways from that last question include men are simple. Davlon, men are simple. We need to just keep up with that, women. Also, as Deli reminded us, we need to note that there are challenges in terms of the emotional vocabulary. That's one that I have to remember or retain. And even as we get ready to go to our next item, we are going to listen to special music by the Webster Sisters. I want you to stay tuned. This is a moment where we can share this link with someone else. And if you have your questions, you can also share them via WhatsApp. So Brother Devines, Brother Davlon, and Brother Dellison could answer your questions. Stay with us.
the enemy underneath my feet. You are my sword and shield. Though troubles linger still, whom shall I fear? I know who goes before me, I know who stands behind. The God of angel armies is always by my side. The one who reigns forever, he is a friend of mine. The God of angel armies is always by my side. My strength is in your name, for you alone can save. You will deliver me, yours is the victory. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I fear? I know who goes before me, I know who stands behind. The God of angel armies is always by my side. The one who reigns forever, he is a friend of mine. The God of angel armies is always by my side. And nothing formed against me shall stand. You hold the whole world in your hands. I'm holding on to your promises. You are faithful, you are faithful, and nothing formed against me shall stand. You hold the whole world in your hands. I'm holding on to your promises. You are faithful, you are faithful, you are faithful. I know who goes before me, I know who stands behind. The God of angel armies is always by my side. The one who reigns forever, he is a friend of mine. The God of angel armies is always by my side. I know who goes before me, I know who stands behind. The God of angel armies is always by my side. The one who reigns forever, he is a friend of mine. The God of angel armies is always by my side. The God of angel armies is always by my side.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Afia Motley Braffett, and I am from the Marisol SDA Church. Now, I am currently married to my husband, Larry Brathwaite. We will be celebrating our 7th anniversary on the 30th of November this year. And, you know, we've been together for some time. It's been over 10 years. You know, sometimes I can't even believe how long I have been with this man. And besides that, I have always had men around me. I grew up in a family with my dad, and I have 3 younger brothers as well. So I think I know a thing or two about men. All right, so the first thing, what confuses me about men? Firstly, I will be a little trivial about the matter. What really confuses me sometimes is how men eat. Now, I don't know if you have ever had any experiences with men, but men can eat and eat and eat some more. So that's the first thing that confuses me about men. You know, there's another thing that really confuses me, and I'll talk about my husband in particular, and it's the way my husband makes decisions. All right, so sometimes he might come to me for my professional help and he would ask me my opinion on something, and then he would do the complete opposite, right? So that absolutely confuses me. All right, so and let's move on to what I find interesting about men. You know, men are very interesting, and I love men. Okay, and in fact, I think I had more male friends growing up rather than female friends. So I really like and enjoy the company about men. But, you know, as I'm getting older and I've spent more time with my husband, I've seen how he's handling our home and, you know, taking care of certain businesses. The thing that I really find most interesting is the way he gets things done. Now, I could give you an example where I'm right now. This is my office. And if it was not for my husband, I would not have been here. I've been here for over 6 years now, and it was because my husband pushed me into this decision. All right, so I find that really interesting. I find men to be very ambitious, they are go-getters, and they can get things done. And they don't let fear or, you know, negative thoughts or negative opinions deter them. And this is what I find most interesting about men. Are men mysterious or not? I don't think so. Not at all. I could really tell what men are thinking sometimes. I can guess my husband's actions, what he's going to do before he does them. You know, so I don't think men are interesting at all. If anything, I think women are the more mysterious gender. All right, so thank you for allowing me to share with you today, and I hope you enjoy the other presenters. Bye.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. My name is Ayana Benjamin Charles, and I am here this afternoon just to share my perspective on men. Being in a marriage relationship for the past 10 years, I think I can give a few of my thoughts on the subject. First of all, what do men do that I find interesting? You know, because of our culture, we'll find a lot of men are not inclined to be romantic. They take it for TV thing. It's a fantasy world that we're living in. And honestly, lack of romance leads to a lot of infidelity and insecurity in your relationship. It doesn't have to be buy roses every day. It could be leaving love notes about the place, checking in with a phone call or a WhatsApp. How you doing, babe? If she's in the kitchen to set the tone for the rest of the evening, you could pass and brush up on her a little bit, you know, make her feel secure, make her feel loved in your relationship. And you'll be surprised as to how explosive the rest of your evening could be, even if she's having a bad day. A simple thing as giving a massage, a foot rub, asking if she wants a cup of tea. You know, simple acts of service, acts of love would really affirm your love and commitment to her and would make her feel, you know, on top of the world. For me, what men would do that would confuse us: say one thing and your actions show something else. Let your no be no and your yes be yes. It's as simple as that. Don't say nothing going on here, or I'm not really interested in this, you know, but you know you really are interested, or you really, you know, want to do something else. Let your actions reflect what your words say. And for me, I don't really think men are that interested. Honestly, I don't find anything extraordinary, like, what's the word? Mysterious, that's it. I don't think men are that mysterious once you honor what their needs and their desires are. They can be very simple creatures. You're hungry, feed them. They want love, love them. They want respect, respect them. And I hope in my little tips that the both parties, both men and women, would really show a true appreciation for each other and relationships can blossom. In wrapping up, I just want to share a little experience. It's not really a little experience per se, but little tips that you could use to help boost your relationships. We're in COVID times and you find a lot of relationships tend to be struggling as to what to do because the restaurants are closed. The supermarket is open. You can make a simple picnic, whether it's outside in your front lawn or in a park as I'm sitting, right? You can get a little bottle of Eva, put it to chill, make yourself a nice little parfait. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. Simple fruits and yogurts will do the trick. Give the man a nice little massage and let him know you love him. And it will take your relationship to higher heights. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you everyone for staying tuned to our program this evening. And if you're just joining, the topic for this evening is the mind of a man. And we have three men here who are giving us their different opinions on the questions that are being posed to them. I want to thank the wives who are giving us their contributions and answering questions that would have been asked before. If you want to, you can also post within the YouTube chat. There is a live, interesting conversation going on with persons there, so you can jump in and be a part of that. My next question goes back to Davlon. Do you think that women should define who a good man is? You think that's fair for us? I think that's fair. But do you think that we women should define or determine what or who a good man is?
How to answer this one? Women can have only the idea of what a good man is by the men they interact with, or the men they or who grew up with their father, how their father may have treated. Sometimes that may be the own ideology of who a good man is. But for my opinion, that may not be my standards as a good man, or I may be higher than that standard. Sometimes he may have a lower standard to what a man may be. So you should look to, you may come, the answer may, you could, I think the best thing to look to God for who a man should be in the right and upright standards, but I don't think that they could just off their mind say, this is what a good man should be, because that could be very opinionated.
And I agree with you, Davlon. That's a safe way to go. Yeah. Let's leave it to God to determine what makes a good man. Brother Devine, do you think that men earn respect, should have to earn respect, or should have to work for it, or should it be something that they are given willingly, because we just should?
If I may just touch on the former question, the man that a woman should have. You know, just recently, some guys, we were having a conversation, and we came up with the topic, the making of a man. In the sense that different women have different expectations, and therefore each person, each woman will need to know the kind of man that she wants. You understand me? You have to know whether and in the Christian context, you want a Christian man, somebody who loves the Lord, and things like that, somebody who will take care of you, you feel secure in his presence, and things like that. But that man that you are looking for as a Christian woman may not be the type of man that another woman might want, and therefore there is no template that you are going to follow in the sense that except you are a Christian, there are certain values that you subscribe to, and that should help you. Some women like tall men with broad shoulders, some women like short men, you know, and so you have to, the woman has to determine who she wants and who she's prepared to spend her life with. And that is very important because you have to live with the man. All right, so we were just joking and say you have to get a piece of plasticine and you make the man that you want. Anyhow, get into the question of respect, whether it should be earned or what's the next part of it?
Given willingly.
I think that respect begets respect, and therefore each person should respect himself or herself. All right, it's not something that you're going to go into a relationship and negotiate. All right, you are a human being. There are certain values, as I said. There are certain traits, regardless of nationality, ethnicity, that it is expected. Society expects a certain kind of behavior from human beings, rational human beings, and therefore I think it should be a mutual kind of relationship that we are getting into, where both male and female respect each other. So it's not a question, I will respect you if you respect me. I think that respect is a critical ingredient in a person's life.
Thank you very much. So we go into Mr. Dellison. It is said that, and I know you touched on this a bit before when we spoke and you used the phrase emotional vocabulary, so I wanted to come back to you with this question. It is said that men don't normally share or express their feelings. Now, is this really the case, or is this something that we just grew up hearing? Men don't talk, men don't suppress. Is that just a thinking, just a thought, or is that really the case? Now, I'm asking you because we're doing the mind of a man. To me, this is just a statement I have been hearing all my life. But, Mr. Dellison, would you care to tell us if that's truly the case?
Oh, of course. To be very honest with you, men, we have a lot of feelings. And I tell people, when I ever hear men are being called as unemotional and men don't talk and men don't share, that's not really the case, because I tell people, if you observe men in their natural habitat, watch men if they like sports, watch men if they're hanging out with their friends, if they engage in activity that they really do enjoy, you would see all of our feelings and all of our emotions, and we have words for those things. I think what men tend to be what men tend to struggle is when the conversation is about feelings, like emotional feelings, relational feelings, and that's the part I think that we need to distinguish if we're talking about the general man. The average man in society has feelings. If a man likes sport, if a man likes music, if a man is with his friends or in an activity that he really likes, you will see him happy, you'll see him angered, you'll see him surprised, you'll see him nervous, you'll see all of the feelings coming out. But I think where the issue is when it comes to relational feelings, like when a man is going to be vulnerable and open up, as I said, with that vocabulary thing. And I think the two areas that men tend to struggle when it comes to relationships and feelings, vulnerability. And I think that's where people talk about we don't share our feelings, because we have feelings, but it's just we're not really vulnerable all the time to talk about the things that are nearest and dearest to us.
Now, I want to stay with you a bit, Mr. Dellison, because men often say that they value peace. Do you want us to explain a little bit about what men say, that when they say that statement, we want to value peace? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that peace is a big word, because peace is subjective, right? When I say, let me get personal now. When I say I value peace, I am an introvert at heart, right? So being an introvert, I am not big on outdoor activity. I don't have to be very social or center of attention and so on. So for me, when it comes to emotional communication, I do it well, but my words are very short. My words are few unless I have to talk. So for me, peace in my home in particular is really about understanding, is about acknowledgement, and it's just about respecting a need or respecting a request. I think in most cases, I want to get back general now, in most cases, men are the ones who are here putting forward this whole thing about nagging. And we tend to say that women nag us and women are nagging. But what we consider to be nagging, I'm speaking on behalf of men in general, not me as a man. What we talk about being nagging is when we feel like our emotional needs or our requests that we are making are not being respected. Now, I know that some women would say that we are not mind readers and we don't know exactly what you all want because you all need to open your mouth and talk. At the same time, we've heard some women in the presentations before said, I understand men and men are not as mysterious as they think they are. So there are some times when women may have a want for emotional connection and to talk and to sometimes talk about general things that are not relevant in the moment, just because they want some connection. But at that point, as Brother Devine said earlier, at that point, the man may have something else on his mind. So his wanting that quietness or his wanting a little time for himself is not that he is rejecting you and not wanting to connect with you, but he just wants some time to come apart a little while and rest. So I think the wanting piece is just akin to respecting my emotional needs. I mean, men don't make plenty emotional needs, honestly. So if I am making an emotional need, and sometimes I might just be, I want to be in some quiet, I just want some quiet time, I just need a little bit of space, I think it's something that could be respected. Just my humble opinion.
Brother Devines?
I tend to agree with Brother Charles as relates to that. You know, when the question of peace came to my mind, Proverbs chapter 25 talks about it is better to be on the rooftop than to be in the house with a cantankerous woman. You understand me? And that's a serious thing. Now, I'm not degrading women, but sometimes for peace sake, you know, for that sanity, it's better to keep quiet, you know. I say to the guys from time to time, sometimes you have to suffer wrong, you know. Sometimes some women, not all women, they put things to you without asking a question. They are putting it to you, and they don't have the facts, and that could really trip a man. Okay, if you are not emotionally stable, right? But sometimes you just have to let that pass and say, well, tell Satan you didn't see me, all right? And you just let it pass. However, you know, I think that as men, to be fair to the women, we should make time each day to have some kind of conversation. It doesn't have to be very long. You know, every day, so, you know, song them out, how was your day? How are things going with you? And things like that. As I go back to Brother Charles, sometimes you want your space. For instance, for a man, news, and more so sports news, very important. And that might be the time when your wife might be coming to you to tell you something that happened during the day. And you want to know what happened to Manchester City and Arsenal, as the case may be, or with the CPL. So timing is important, and that level of sensitivity on both sides. All right, and of course we have to be fair as men too. We can't always say, well, okay, only come to me when I don't have anything to do. That will be unfair. But again, I think it was Afia who spoke and said she understood her man, her husband. It is very important that women should take time out to understand their men, their husbands, and those who are planning to get married. What you see on TV, that is not it. You got to spend some time understanding the real man that you are interacting with. Because when you get married to him, you will get to discover more about him. Okay, and you have to ask yourself, am I prepared to live with that man? Okay? So this is what I want to say on that score.
So it is important, women, that you understand who your man is. One person in the chat is actually saying that Jesus was very good at communicating. So I'm guessing as well that men, you need to work on your communication, because if Jesus did it, so can you. Going back to Brother Davlon, opinions on the same question.
Right, well, I'm not married as yet, so I don't have the experience of living with a woman to know when to get a peace and stuff like that. But for those who know me, I'm a guy who's very emotional, and for me, a peace of mind is important for me to function or to analyze or to deal with an issue. So sometimes I like to at least have a time away, or even within the presence of a woman, to have a quiet time to gather my thoughts together, to gather myself together, so that I could effectively represent the ideas in my mind to deal with a situation. So when I don't have a peace of mind based on a situation, then it may take a longer time to deal with the problem. So that's what peace means to me.
Noted. Now, I know when you started off this section, you opened by saying that you are not married as yet, so you won't be able to fully answer that question. So this is one for you then. A lot of women tend to say in the church that there's no good men in church. Would you, Davlon, repeat or agree with the same for the other gender? Would you think that there's no good women in church and that's why the struggle is real for certain persons?
I disagree that there are good women in church. I found a good woman from church, to be honest, and is really to seek God instead of seeking a man or a woman. Is really to seek after his goodness, his work, and things will be revealed unto us, because I believe that there are someone for everyone, or based on your calling in life, then it will be presented unto you. But to me, seeking after Christ, and he will grant the desires of your heart. So I wouldn't be as bold to say there's no good man or good woman in church. That's totally not true.
Well done, and congratulations to her. So, Brother Devines, women like to use the phrase, I want a real man. I don't want any soft man. No, a man who by nature is not assertive, does that make him any less of a man, even a soft man? After, I would like to take Brother Deli's opinion on the same.
It goes back to what I said earlier. And I think society has a part to play with that. Society portrays a certain kind of man, and there are some women who go after that kind of man. The man on the TV, the man with the fancy car, and things, the man who is robust, and things like that. And so you find some women saying that they don't want a soft man. They don't want a man that is not they don't want a man who is quiet. He's too reserved and things like that. But what really makes a man? You want a man who can sit down and be collective and analyze situation and will come up with solution when you have problems. You don't want a fly-by-night man, that everybody, like a playboy. And sometimes women fall into that trap because they want a man that society says that they should have. But as Davlon rightly said, you go to God and ask him to guide you. Okay, I'm trying to figure out this thing about soft man. You want a man who will love you, who will take good care of you, who you can trust, who you can be in his arms, and so on. A man who loves the Lord. When you have problems, both of you can sit down and pray, or kneel down and pray to God and ask for solution. All right, you're not walking away from the problem, because sometimes we have the idea that, okay, after you're married, happily after, partners, you're gonna got a lot of challenges, friction, because they are two different persons coming together to live for as long as both of you shall last. And therefore, you have to understand that. So don't get trapped by this soft man thing. You ask God to provide that companion that will make you happy, that will help you to the kingdom. All right? You may get a hard man that gets you down to hell. So the choice is yours. I want to be as practical as possible as it relates to that. Okay?
All right. When I think about the concept of the soft man, I want to agree with Brother Devine say when we talk about and bring society in it, right? And the thing is, when we talk about society, I like to remind myself that we are society. So you, me, everybody looking at this program, we are all society. So when we accept differently, then the norms change. When we do differently, then society changes. I just want to premise it with that. So going back to society now, society, all of us, we have put forward this concept called toxic masculinity. And we have raised a lot of men in this toxic masculinity by not intending to make a man aggressive or hostile or emotionally illiterate. But what we have done is that we have told men, don't cry, don't show no weakness, be a man, be strong. If there's something dangerous, go and do that because your sister can't do it. Use the boy, you have to do it. And so we assign men all of these tasks from an early age and tell them, be hard, don't be soft, conceal, hide your feelings, don't feel, and don't do those things because he's a sissy or he's a girl or you're weak. And so a lot of boys have raised up now to be men, have been raised to be men, and they still have this notion that they have to be hard and they have to be aggressive. And when they feel weak or they feel vulnerable, they need to now overcompensate and mask that now with aggressiveness, and they need to be assertive. And that assertiveness, once it's misdirected or not accompanied by emotional intelligence, it turns into abusiveness. And so we have a lot of men now, because they have never really understood how to be assertive, they now interpret them putting their foot down or leading as synonymous with being abusive. And so we know that a lot of men now think that that's what a hard man is, you know, being able to command respect and hide their feelings and not show no softness and weakness as society says. Now, I want to say this though, we have a lot of women who glorify that image. There are a lot of women who perpetuate this mindset and mentality by raising sons, by allowing men to continue to be this way. And I mean, I know some people will disagree, right? But something I do when I work with some clients, I always say, especially to mothers, and I tell them, I say, mothers, you cannot teach a boy how to be a man. You can share with a boy what you as a female expect from a man, but you can't teach a boy how to be a man. Furthermore, how to be an acceptably hard man or assertive man. And so this whole thing about soft man and hard man, it really goes down to this ability to balance emotional intelligence with leadership. And I think that when you have men who just don't know how to lead well, and leadership breeds respect, which breeds submissiveness, and we'll come to that. But because we have some men who just don't know how to balance their emotions, and they think if they just tell us, I don't show no emotions at all, so let me be hard. But we have to be honest that not many men have just been made to feel okay with weakness. And so Jesus, who is my example as a man, when the Bible tell me that Jesus wept, when the Bible tell me that Jesus was anxious and nervous, and he had all of these what society calls weak emotions, he showed me that it's okay for me to do that and still be an assertive man. And I think that I am an assertive man, but I'm very much in touch with my emotions. So men, we need to come away from this emotions, this weakness, and tell society to go from here with that.
Thank you for that very loaded response. Now, I'm going to take up a bit of what you said in terms of submission. And I know that, we all know that text in the Bible that talks about the women submitted to their husbands. And you would think that as the years rolled by, that seems to be an old-time kind of thinking, a long-time King James Version kind of thing. Do you think that still has its place in marriages today, where the submission should still be there? Brother Daddy, and then we take Brother Devine's opinion and see.
All right. I believe that it's not just a King James thing. I believe that it is still very much present in our society. Something I like to say, I heard Brother Devine say that respect begets respect, and I understand that. But in this male-female conversation, especially when it comes to submission and women submitting, what I've come to understand, being a married man myself, is that most women don't have a problem with submission, but women are unlikely or unwilling to submit to a man who cannot lead. And so just as Brother Devine said, respect begets respect, I see it differently in the concept that I believe that leadership or security begets submission or submissiveness. And when a woman feels secure, and I'm not saying that is a you have to do because this person has to do. But when a woman feels secure and she feels loved and protected, and feel like she's being led into the right place, she will submit. And so I tell my men sometimes, we need to step our game up to make women feel a little bit more secure in that respect. But something I say to that, women don't have to submit to all men. What the Bible said is that a woman has to submit to her husband. So if it is a man that's not a woman's husband, she doesn't have to submit to that man. She can respect him by virtue of the fact that he's a human being and a man, but she doesn't have to submit to him. As the Bible tells us, a woman should submit to her husband, and her husband's responsibility then is to make a woman feel more secure and safe so that her submissiveness flows freely like a fountain.
Brother Levine?
Yes, if I may say, and I agree with Chalo on that score. Women, well, most women like to be proud of their men, all right? They like to say, well, there goes my man, or there goes my husband, and I see you smiling. But, and they are disappointed when they feel let down. In other words, they for instance, on the field of play, if you are running a race and you are coming last, your wife will be really disappointed. That doesn't say that I used to be running and coming last, but the reality is that women have certain expectations, and they are going to go the extra mile when they feel confident about you, when they look at you as their spouse, and they realize, well, okay, you are living out the ideals that I expect. They will be willing. You don't have to force submission. And submission is not servitude. All right? It's say, okay, I want you to do this, obey me, and so on. It's a question of saying, okay, because we love each other, because we have a good working relationship, I am prepared to cooperate with you. I'm prepared to go along with you. I'm prepared to lend support to you. And what I picked up with us as men, from men's ministry, is that men don't want so much the set of flurry things. Men want support. But I'm hastening to see the same support that we expect, we should give, and therefore, or even more. And this question of submission will just flow naturally, because you want the family unit to develop to a certain extent that all parties will be happy. So submission is not really servitude. Okay, I am obeying my master. No, it's not that what the Bible is talking about. And submission is supposed to be a two-way situation.
So that's it, because I'm looking at the chat and persons are saying the same thing, but then someone is quoting the text that only talks about the woman submitting to the man, but that's another thing. So as we get ready to go to our next video presentation from Sister Baines, we want to thank you for staying with us. We want to thank you for keeping all your interesting points, especially in that YouTube chat. Keep your questions and comments for it. We are seeing them. Keep with us.
Good afternoon, viewers. I'm so delighted to be a part of this afternoon's program. I know it would be a blessing to all our listeners. So let us listen and learn from what we will be hearing this afternoon. Today we want to talk about a little bit about men. We are not going to be bashing them, but a lot of things confuses us as women sometimes about men. And I have my personal things that confuse me from time to time about men. Number one, and I'm sure most of our women would agree with me, men, one of the things that confuses me about men, they are not detailed. They are not detailed. They come to, give you a story or give you an incident, and everything is so choppy. And as women, we cannot deal with that. We love details, from where the story began to everything. Give us it detailed. That is something that really confuses me as a woman about men. And then another thing, men, you will be sitting with them, or your husband to be precise, and you will say, so babes, what's on your mind? What are you thinking? Nothing. Nothing? How on earth could it be nothing? And I am here as the woman sitting with you. 101 thing is going through my mind, but you are thinking nothing. These are just two of the basic things that confuses me about men on a whole. But there's always something better at the other end of the line. And I would like to talk about what I find interesting in a man. First of all, I love a man with a good sense of humor. Because anybody who knows me, I just love to laugh. I remember when Francis visited my mom, you know, of his interest about me, she told him, make sure you keep Moya laughing. And I mean, Francis maybe was trying to understand, but now he knows that, so that if I am in a tense or quiet mood, he now would ask me what's wrong, and I'll say nothing, I'm just thinking, but I love to laugh. So I love a man with a good sense of humor, a man that loves the Lord. That is number one. I'm not talking about a church-going man, but one that is really wrapped up, love the Lord. So you know what? When that man loves the Lord, he cannot help but love you, because God teaches him to love his wife, his spouse. So when a man loves the Lord, you are very much safe with that man. That is another thing that I love about a man. And apart from him loving the Lord, this is top priority also for me. I love a well-groomed man. I love. When I saw Francis that first Sabbath walking out from Canaan Church, I looked at him, and that's what I saw, a well-groomed man bouncing out the church like he was leaving before the service over. And I looked at that, and then when I saw him again, I like a clean-shaven man. I cannot help it. Even though if you have hair on your face, you got to be groomed. You got to be groomed. Your teeth, your hair. I don't like too much hair. So these are the physical qualities that I look for in a guy, in a man. And the other thing is, there are some mysteriousness about a man that does not go down too well with me. Mysteriousness can be fun to a certain level. And I will always have to refer back to Francis, because that is who I know. Francis will go to town and he will come home. Babes, guess who I see in town today? How on earth can I know who you see? So I will say, Francis, come now, man, come, just tell me who you see. And then he will later me. I cannot deal with mysteriousness for too long. And then another thing, mysteriousness, while it has its fun in it from time to time, I think, you know, there's some, when two people is beginning to get serious, I think mysteriousness need to go. There should be no mysteriousness there. So, especially when you are getting really serious and going into some plans, the play field has to be leveled there now, so that, you know, we can know of each other. So mysteriousness, while it has its fun, it has a drop-off point.
Yes.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, Sister John, for those experiences. You're like a well-groomed man. You don't like the mysteriousness. You don't want to guess. And I'd like to thank all the women as well who have kept giving us these interesting things about their partnerships, their relationships, and the things to keep it going. So right now on YouTube channel, we have a poll that is going. And one of the questions posted was, what does a man want? Finding a spiritual woman, finding an honest woman, finding a self-sufficient woman, or finding an attractive woman? So as the voting went, 42% of the voters chose finding a spiritual woman, 21% said they wanted an honest woman, 21% also said a self-sufficient woman, and 50% wanted an attractive woman. I don't know who actually did the votes. I hope these were only males that voted. The next question was, what does a man want? The options were for his family to be happy, to be a father, and wedding bells. For his family to be happy had 97%, to be a father, 2%. Wedding bells, 0%. So I'm sure this was only men that took part in this poll. Final question, what does a man want? Options of finding solutions or making decisions, that was 46%. His personal space, that was 36%. Food for his stomach, 17%. What men want is to find solutions and to make decisions. Brother Devines, do you agree with the answers from that last poll, that what men really want is to find solutions or make decisions? Or do you think it's personal space? Or do you even think it's food?
I smile as they were listing the responses. I think that most men mean good. Okay, and therefore their focus, or our focus, normally will be for success, for achievement, because we believe the underlying fact is that, okay, when we achieve these things, we'll be able to assist our families. All right, and so a man may not spell out everything that he has in mind for his family, but at the same time, he has his family as a priority. And sometimes spouses are saying to their husbands, you're working too hard, or you're working too long. That might be so at times, but the reality is that the good man, or the respectful man, or the ambitious man, he is concerned about the welfare of his family, and he looks at the future in the present. Most ambitious men, they look at the future in the present, and so men are inclined to be risk takers. Men like to take risks as they prepare for their families, you know. And sometimes it could be to our detriment if, you know, we become intemperate and things like that. But the reality is that we want the best for our families, and we go all out to ensure that that happens.
So even as you spoke about men being ambitious, the question I want to go right back at you with is a man's worth directly related or linked to his level of success? So is he worth more because he's an engineer versus a garbage collector? What do you think? And then I'm going to ask all the men to comment on this as we go along. So we'll take Davlon right after, and then we'll close off with Mr. Charles.
I don't say that at all. Every person has a space in this world, and everybody is a contributor. There is, as I said, there is dignity in labor. And therefore, your forte might be in agriculture, you may be a mechanic or a teacher or an engineer, as the case may be. My thing is, be the best way you are. Okay, be a positive contributor to your society, to the society, to your community, to your family, to God, as the case may be. So I don't think that anybody should look down on any occupation. Can you imagine this society without the garbage collector? And as a matter of fact, the garbage collectors are the ones who have the priority during this state of emergency. They all in the night, they are up and down ensuring that the disposal of waste material and so on. So, and of course we need engineers, but I don't think that we should discriminate as far as that is concerned. I was happy when I listened to Sister John. She had her shopping list. She said she identified the kind of man or this husband or this spouse that she wanted. And therefore the value, first and foremost, God made us in his own image and likeness, and he has placed a value on us. And therefore we should not allow anybody else to determine how much value or how much worth we have. God made us, and we should feel good about ourselves. We shouldn't be conceited, but we should feel good about ourselves, and we should carry ourselves in that manner.
All right, so I want to start based on Sir Devine's first. His last point is a man must first know his worth in himself, defining his worth, knowing himself, so that he could go on from being with himself to be with somebody else. A man's worth to me also, and value is also based on how he's able to take care of his obligations around him, his responsibilities, so that he provides, he protects, he labors, also with a woman, she does the same, but he has to me, in my understanding of it, he has the forefront of that as a responsibility, as a God-given man. So to me, a man's worth is not based on his occupation or what he does, but his ability to provide and to take care of his responsibilities that he takes up.
All right, so I want to go back to what Renesca was asking, because he said the question was, is it that a man does not feel good about himself if his level of success is not there, or if his feeling accomplished is attached to that? You know, men are typically, we live very close to what we do and our ability to perform our roles well. So if we set up for ourselves, especially us as Christian men, you know, we take the typical priest, provider, and protector. We take these things very seriously. And so if a man feels that he's not living up to his expectation, or he's not successful in the execution of his roles as a provider, as a priest of his home, and as a protector of his family, to ensure that everything is taken care of, to a large extent, men tend to feel very incomplete, and they tend to experience higher levels of low self-esteem or lower levels of self-esteem. Women typically are more concerned about who they are or who they're seen as, and so women are the ones who typically and generally tend to be focusing more on how well they perform their roles of beings, or how well of a wife they are, how well of a helpmeet they are, how much, you know, how their men feel loved, how much they contribute to making this man feel good. And I mean, it's kind of connected to what was said to Eve after the fall, when he said that your desire will be unto your husband, you know. So it's like you can't help but think about him and be concerned about his emotional well-being so much. But for men in particular, we are very concerned. I will be honest on the platform and say that we are very concerned with our ability to provide well. It has nothing to do with where we work, what occupation we hold. But as Brother Devine said, there is dignity in labor. So once a man is working and able to provide and able to give this level of sustenance, he feels good about himself. Where he does not feel that way, regardless of where he's working, if there's no labor and there's no ability to provide or no channel for his ambitions, he really does feel lesser than, or there's a certain level of feeling incomplete.
Thank you very much. So we're going to the last question on the poll, which stated, what does a man want? Options: women to say what they are thinking, 43%, and I believe these were men voting. Husband and wife activities, 22%. I don't know what this category is, but 22% agreed with it. To leave home on time, 16%. And money, 16%. Davlon, what do you think? What does a man want? Women to say what they're thinking, husband and wife activities, to leave home on time, or money?
Two things. To say what you're thinking, yes, but to get to the point. you know, and it's something, a personal struggle for me sometimes, because women tend to go on and on and on, and some people, me sometimes don't have the patience or the time or just the emotional strength to tarry for the end of the conversation, you know. So on that note, sometimes what men want is for women to just get to the point, because we men are simple in explaining things at times, and yeah, that's one. And the second one is sometimes is one to be on time, because some men are tardy, some men are really diligent about their doings, and women tend to want to get the perfection in everything, the dressing and everything, and just to be considerate. May not be as punctual as you may want to be, but be considerate of the person or of the man who is waiting on you. That's it.
So we hear that, ladies, we need to get to the point. He's not able to tarry with listening to all the extra things we want to say. So let me go straight to Brother Devines. What does a man want? Let me not tarry. Straight to you. What does a man want?
Well, over time, experience will teach you that living with a woman is a very interesting journey, and getting to the point is not so easy all the time, because sometimes you want that to happen. You know, we wish that they will get to the point as quickly as possible, but deep down within, they want to pour out. Okay, because as was mentioned, they are very emotional. God made them that way. And earlier in the discussion, we talked about respecting and appreciating differences. All right? A man cannot be a woman, and a woman cannot be a man. Okay, but because of those differences, we can appreciate how to relate. And sometimes God is teaching us patience. So, and I must allude to the fact that I am developing more and more patience as the time goes by. So getting to the point is one. The other question of leaving home on time or leaving on time, well, you just exercise patience and wait, because what else do you do? What do you do? You know, I don't think that you should jump in your car and drive away and leave your family or things like that. That would be very irrational. Talk to your spouse and say, babes, you know, we need to get to this destination for a certain time. It might be good for us to get up earlier and get organized and things like that. Or as men, sometimes we may have to help, you know, to cut back on the delay. We have to help in doing some of the things. I just share with you something quickly. Where we live in the countryside, but you know, the quarry is before us, right? Mm-hmm. And therefore, if we leave home late and all those trucks are heading into Scarborough, we will be in real trouble. So sometimes I would say, well, okay, remember the quarry, or remember the big truck, or something like that, and some folks will get the cue. So in other words, you don't bulldoze your way. You have to find creative ways, because if you decide to be impatient all the time, you will wear out. You will die from stress, and therefore, you know, you want to live long, you want to enjoy your wife, the wife of your youth, as the case may be. Therefore, we have to give and take. That's my take on it. Be flexible.
Be flexible.
Yeah.
We have to have some give and take. And Brother Deli, I will literally skip you on this question, because I suppose that you may have a similar opinion as Brother Devines and Brother Dablam. But I'm going to give you another question. Now, today we're talking about the mind of a man. And it is always a popular opinion that men have only one thing on their mind, which we know is sex. That's what all persons would say. Men only have one thing on their mind. So, Brother Deli, what else do men have on their mind that sometimes we women don't even realize that these things actually matter to you guys? These things are important to me. So it's not just a sex thing. What else would you say men have that are critical and important to them and are always on their minds?
This question is really nice, just because Some days ago, I presented on a platform over here in Barbados regarding sexual health and sexual matters. And the same question came, is it that men are only thinking about sex? And the simple answer to that is no, you know. Men, we think about, as Brother Devine was saying, we think about stability. We think about, you know, having enough. We think about financial security. We think about the future. Sometimes we are thinking about recreation, you know, the things that we like, the activities that we like to engage in, and sex is one of them. But we tend to have a whole set of things happening, and sometimes we have nothing at all happening. So when I saw Sister Moya said that, you know, she can't understand how men sometimes have nothing on their minds. It's not that we don't have anything on our minds, but what women do more than men in some cases, because there are a lot of overthinking men too, right? But the general woman she lives close to her emotions, and so when thoughts comes through her mind, or when a thought would come through her mind, you know, she would pull the thought and, you know, attach her emotions to it, and so she always has something that she's contemplating very often. But men, we tend to let the thoughts run, you know, and just come in one ear and go out the other ear, because sometimes we like to get to the point, and getting to the point might mean like, if I don't have to think about this thing in the moment, I am not thinking on it. If I don't have to talk about this thing in the moment, I'm not talking about it. Women use this amount of words on a daily basis. Men use about this amount of words on a daily basis. So if this is all the words that we men can use, or we tend to use, we're not going to attach them to unnecessary thoughts, and not going to give plenty energy to that. So sometimes we just really let the thoughts come in one ear and go out the other ear. But if we are thinking about things, sex is one of them. It's not the only thing. Sex, we think about stability, about providing, about incomplete tasks, and just about how we can get some form of recreation to deal with this stressful life. And that's where the sex might come in.
Well, I find it's kind of unfair to just say that all men think about is sex. And then again, when men think about sex and they vocalize it, in some quarters it may appear they want too much sex. So what? You understand? So let's rest that part of it. Sex might be high on our agenda, all right? Because, you know, God made us male and female, and we are married, and of course we have the privilege and the pleasure. But there are other things that we think about. We as Brother Charles said, we think about our future, we think about our families, we even think about our children, you know, those who have children, is, you know, their educational pursuit and so on. How are we going to provide for them? We think about their health, you know, we think about investment. Sometimes what really happens, and Moya talked about, we're not thinking any, her husband wasn't thinking anything. Sometimes we don't always say what we are thinking, and for obvious reason too. Sometimes we wait for the appropriate time to say, well, okay, no, I was thinking about this, and but by the time we tell you about the project, it's because it is formalized already, we have it sorted out and things like that, and you are ready to accept it, okay? Or we believe that your input will be favorable. Because sometimes you come up with a project and the risk might appear to be too high for you as a woman, but for the man you calculated the risk and you believe that you can take the chance, and in the long run the dividends will be great. So, and of course we think about pleasure and recreation. You know, you want to go online, go on the beach, you want to go on fishing, you want to play a cricket match. Somebody told me, every time I see you, you're always busy. And I said, you're not really speaking the truth. When you see me, I'm always busy, but that doesn't mean that I'm always busy. You don't see me when I sit down. I'm at home reading newspapers, I'm watching TV, you know, I'm just not doing anything, I'm just relaxing. You don't see me those times. So I am always busy based upon what you are seeing. So your reality is not really my reality, and sometimes That is the case with men and women, right? You believe that we tell you that we're not thinking anything. It's just because we do not really want to relate everything at this point in time. Whereas we don't want to talk. We don't want to talk that much. Prefer to make it short and give us some time to breathe.
This communication thing will always be an issue because men would not always want to talk. But as one person said today, Jesus was great at communicating. So we can't say nothing, gentlemen, when the question is asked, what's on your mind? You have to have something to say. But women as well have to exercise some patience in terms of waiting for them to come around and letting us know what's the answer. So even as we have our last question for this evening, I see someone is hinting at part 2, and that is up to the producers of this program. We just want to close off with this question. Do you think, and this one is for everyone on the panel, do you think men experience loneliness in a relationship? So you might be looking like all is well, great presentations, you speak highly of your relationship, your wife does as well, but deep inside, a man is probably lonely in the relationship because they think that the wife is too close to their mother or too close to their girlfriends or something like that. Do you think that men could be lonely in a relationship? And this would be a question for, or closing question for everyone on the panel. Starting with Davlon.
All right, sometimes I feel that men can be neglected emotionally because our lack to express ourselves, as Brother Charles was saying. So because of that, sometimes men tend to be lonely but not show it, or he may find some pleasure with himself that is outside of the family, maybe sports or whatever he feel comfortable doing. So sometimes I feel men could be lonely at times, and sometimes the best way to get it over with is to communicate that to your spouse or the persons around you so that that could be alleviated. So I think men could be lonely at times.
Brother Devines?
Yes. Yeah, it can happen, and it happens to people in general. Sometimes some men believe that other relatives or maybe in-laws are competing with them. And this is something that spouses have to be mindful of, or to be sensitive of, about. Your husband is your husband, and therefore you need to spend time with him, he needs to spend time with you. You need to have a good working relationship with your mother, your father, your siblings, as the case may be. But not at the expense of your family, because you're married, this is your husband, this is your wife, as the case may be, and your priority should be for the family, God and your family, and then everybody else after. But if you're spending too much time with your mother or whoever, then that could pose a problem. You know, I usually say I'm not married to my mother, right? I'm married to my wife, and I usually say that my wife is not my mother, so I'm not her son. Okay, we have a mutual understanding, and that's how it's supposed to be. All right, that's my take on it.
I will summarize it by saying that a lot of relationships I witness today, especially marriages, we have a lot of people within marriages who are not friends, and so there's a lack of friendship. There are plenty of things. There's sexual attraction. There's, it makes financial sense, and all of the things that could seem to be superficial, are in place. But in reality, these two people are not friends. And so where there's friendship, there's intimacy, there's communication, there's a desire to spend time with each other. And so there's a mutual, emotional catering. I cater to you, you cater to me, I'm interested in you, you're interested in me. But when two people are not friends, it's very easy for somebody to go where they feel safer to talk. And yes, I want to maintain that men, we have done a disservice to ourselves by not communicating our emotional needs. And so where there's no friendship or there's no feeling of being safe in a relationship, a lot of men, we close off and we keep our emotional things inside. And the women, when they really want that communication to come from us, and they are trying to get us to communicate about things that are important to them, and they don't get that feedback from us, then sometimes they do turn to friends and family. And so sometimes we men do ourselves a disservice by not opening up when we could and should, even if the woman is trying hard to provide an environment for us to feel safe to talk. We don't do it, and so we kind of push the woman away emotionally. But in some cases too, I think that some men and women are just not friends. And so to the unmarried person, you see, when you're stacking up that list of all the things that you want, be sure that friendship is very high. Right after Christianity and belief in God, be sure that you're looking for somebody with whom you have a friendship. Because I will tell you the truth, being married myself, there are some days sex can't carry you through. Your friendship is what is going to take you through. And sometimes you don't want to talk to your lover, you want to talk to your friend. And so when we feel like we are with our friends, we can open up and talk more. So put friendship up there high. And to those who are married, who are not experiencing this level of communication, I would say work on the friendship so that you can have both partners feeling included, seen, and not neglected.
Mm-hmm. And one of the takeaways from the chart is that there are actually a lot of lonely men in relationships. So it means that we are not having enough friendships in relationships, because as Brother Deli has told us, once there is friendship, that would help to ease some of those challenges. So even as we want to thank you for being a part of this evening's program, I trust that you were interested, I trust that you were inspired, I hope that you enjoyed all the pointers that you heard from the different men that were in the panel. I just want to ask them to share any closing thoughts or anything they want the women out there to know about the mind of a man before we close our program today. Brother Devines?
Well, of course, I want to say that it was a pleasure sharing and in this exercise this afternoon. The mind of a man, I think the ideal mind would be the mind of Christ, as found in Philippians chapter 2 and verse 5. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. So let us allow God to guide us in our thoughts and in our actions. I was just reading a quotation by Plato, and it says that the visible casts a shadow of the invisible. So what we are seeing is about something that is inside, and therefore let us make sure that whatever we project is something that is positive, so something that will help to build as against breaking down. So this is what I want to share this afternoon. Let us build.
I want to say thanks for the opportunity to be here to share with the panel. I have learned a lot. Even when I was asked questions, I learned a lot from the men, from the panel this afternoon. I want to encourage us as men to work on our communication, because it is a fact that we do struggle with communication and sharing emotions and stuff. And we are always a work in progress, and we the men always want to be better as a person. So for the encouragement for the men out there, let's continue to be better and develop ourselves to be who God wants us to be, and to always seek His character, which is true and perfect, so that we can reflect His light. Amen.
So joining with you guys, I thank ASI for having us here on the platform this afternoon. It was indeed a wonderful discussion. And I know that going back, I'm sure if I go to the YouTube chat, I'll see that we have a lot of ladies who came today because they wanted to find out something about how we think and how to really unlock the mind of a man. And I want to say the secret is simple. What helps a man, or what helps you to get into the mind of a man, is safety. So a man, when he feels safe emotionally, he will open up. So visibility will bring vulnerability. Validation will bring vulnerability. Many men, we have tried it in the past where we have opened up, and we've had women who have weaponized that vulnerability and throw back things in our face. And after that, we just clank up and just shut down when it comes to certain things. So I know that there are some ladies who are looking at us who want to find out, what do I really need to do to understand the mind of a man? And I would say this to you: create a space where this man feels emotionally safe. Help him to feel emotionally safe, because he is partly responsible. help him to feel more emotionally safe, and where he can just open up and lay his weaknesses, lay his concerns, lay his vulnerabilities out on the table. And when he sees that you do not use that against him, trust me, he will open up and tell you anything. So safety will breed vulnerability, and that is how you unlock the mind of a man. Thank you so much, ASI, for having me this afternoon. It was a pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Delson Charles of Daily Digest. Thank you, Brother Davlon, and thank you, Sir Devines, for being a part of our panel this evening. And as Delly would have reminded us, or would have told us, I should say, safety is a thing, ladies. Let's not use that trust and safety that the men would give to us and weaponize it. That's not fair at all. We need to be good Christian persons. A lot of times we women have big expectations from the men, but are we doing our best? Are we giving them our best? Are we being fair? So even as we close, we just want to go to a poll that was carried out this evening, where different questions were placed and different responses were said. So the poll is captioned, what do men want? We have wedding bells. Nobody, or no man rather, wanted wedding bells. To be a father, we had 2% of the voters saying they want to be a father. To find an attractive woman, 15%. To leave home on time, 16%, which is good because some of us are not always on time. Money, 16%, which is interesting because you would expect that this, but all right, let me just leave it right there. Food for his stomach, 17%. So if you're not that much of a cook, you might just get through. Finding an honest woman, 21%. I thought this might just be a little higher, but we'll go with the poll. Finding a self-sufficient woman, 21%. A lot of times, women speak about what they want a man to do or what he should be good at, but are you self-sufficient woman? Husband and wife activities, 22%. Men wanting their personal space, 36%. So I guess it's sports time and news and all these other things, or when they want to be on their phone and such. Finding a spiritual woman, only 42%. Wanting women to say what they are thinking, 43%. Finding solutions, making decisions, 46%. But what men seem to want the most is for their family to be happy. It's interesting that the thing that the men wants the most is not even about them personally, but it's about you. You, his wife, you, his children, ensuring that he has a great and excellent bond. And that just reminds us of the relationship that Christ would have with his church, because he made a greater sacrifice for all of us. He gave his life. And if the men out there are willing to make such great sacrifices for their family, that is something that's impressive and things that we can continue to work with as we get ready to go to heaven. So on behalf of ASI, I must say it was a pleasure being a part of this program this evening. I have learned a lot. I have smiled a lot on and off camera. Mr. Deli, Mr. Davlon, Brother Devines, it was great working with each of you. I am hearing persons asking for part 2. We will see how that will go. But as for this evening, it was wonderful. I trust that all of you who were listening did enjoy, did learn, and in the weeks to come, there would be changes. There would be friendships being formed and improved in relationships as we women continue to find out what our men want and also what's on the mind of our men. Let us bow our heads and close our eyes as we pray. Loving God, our Heavenly Father, the giver of every good thing upon this earth, we just want to thank you so much for this blessed afternoon. We want to thank you for all the information that would have come out, all the questions that would have been posed, even for the participants who were here, who gave their personal experiences. We want to be thankful as well for the wives who shared their own experiences with their husbands and were willing to testify of the good things. So many times, Lord, in this society, we don't hear the good things that men do. It's not always highlighted. But we want to be thankful today that some of the good things they do were. So I just want to pray a special blessing, oh God, upon relationships, marriages, homes, that even as the world has its challenges, they will not continue to be impacted by the negative things around them, but that persons would seek to be friends in relationships, that partners would seek to place the other above him or herself, that they would have unselfish desires. And if they treat each other the way they want to be treated, I am pretty sure, God, that with your Holy Spirit, these relationships can move mountains. They can stand up as examples for those who are looking on. So continue to bless each of us. Continue to grant us your mercy and your power. Continue to make us testimonies. Make us testify of your goodness each day as we live. Give us a blessed week ahead. This is my prayer this evening in your holy name. Amen. Have a blessed week ahead, everyone. Thank you for staying tuned with us.
Talk?
You want talk?
You want talk?
I want talk, and if you want talk, join us every Friday evening after Friday evening's worship for
the Youth Want Talk.
Talk?
You want talk?
You want talk? I want talk, and if you want talk, join us every Friday evening after Friday evening's worship for
the Youth Want Talk.